Welcome to Giant Radio, where we're all about big ideas in sales and marketing and eye-popping discussions with successful entrepreneurs. Turn up the volume and settle in. Now, here's the founder of Giant Jacks Media and your host, Paul Hitchcock.
Hi, everybody. This is Paul Hitchcock. I am the founder and president of Giant Jacks Media, and we help other people grow their businesses. This is my channel, Giant TV, where I have incredible entrepreneurs and leaders doing amazing things. And certainly Peter Schwartz and Jane-Scott Cantus are in that group. Welcome, both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Yeah, and this is going to be a great discussion because today we're exploring leadership as a journey of becoming. And Peter, you've got a new book out, The Leadership Journeyman, which grew from your Camino experience and decades of coaching leaders. Jane Scott, you've spent years helping executives navigate complexity through peer advisory groups and collective leadership. I'd love to start with a simple question. Peter, I'm going to direct this to you, and Jane, to follow on for you is, what inspired you to write The Leadership Journeyman? And then Jane Scott, when you first read Peter's work, what resonated most strongly with your own experience working with executive leaders?
What inspired me? I've spent 20 years studying leadership with some of the biggest thought leaders in the space. I've spent residencies with these folks, acquired a lot of research and knowledge, and then was applying it to my Vistage practice. I've worked with 380 CEOs over the past 20 years.
Wow.
And along the way, I stopped quoting these experts less and less and started to bring my voice to the conversation. This integration of experience and research, I developed my own voice, my own thinking. And that ultimately led to the book, using the Camino as a metaphor.
And the Camino, describe the Camino.
It's a 500-mile pilgrimage across northern Spain. It's centuries old, and it's just a wonderful metaphor for leadership development, a daily walking towards a desired future state. And inside of that is a whole bunch of leadership stuff.
Something you did alone with others?
Well, you're never alone, but I walked alone, 35 days with a 25-pound backpack, and in and out of conversations with, I can't even tell you how many people from how many countries, I don't even know.
Yeah, incredible. I'm aware of it. I was asking so others who might not be aware could hear, but incredible. Everybody said the same thing, life-altering experience. Jane Scott, what about you?
So what resonated most strongly, to answer your question, from the book is the idea that leadership is fundamentally a journey of becoming. Most executives spend the first half of their careers focused on achievement, building businesses, solving problems, creating results, developing expertise. And eventually, however, leadership presents a different challenge. The question is no longer, what do I need to do? It becomes, who do I need to become? I've seen the transition repeatedly with CEOs and executive leaders, and the leaders who continue to grow are often the ones willing to examine themselves as rigorously as they examine their businesses. And Peter's work captures that so beautifully.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I want to get into this leadership as becoming where Peter, many people think leadership is something you do. You often have described it as someone you become. What is the difference?
Well, I would compare it to a computer's operating system. We all take for granted that we need to upgrade the software on our operating system on our laptop once a year so it can run more effectively software programs. The same is true for leadership and CEOs. All those outer game skills they're learning, skills and knowledge, it works a lot better if you have the right operating system running it. So that's the inner game of leadership development, and the inner game runs the outer game.
And when you're referring to an operating system, you mean uh, a format, a process that you've
It
nailed down?
is an aggregation of every belief, mental model, memory, attitudes, everything across your life. You're building and aggregating an inner belief system. And it performs very much like a computer's operating software. And we all recognize that if we want to get to the next level, we need to upgrade the operating software. That's fundamentally true for leadership development. That's what the science is very clear about today.
And Jane Scott, one of the questions you often ask leaders is who do you need to be as a leader in order to, why do you ask what's next after that?
Yeah, when I do the work in the peer forums, we always go through a business situation, figure out the solution, and then my follow-up question is always, now who do you need to be as a leader in order to be successful at that? And I ask that question because leadership challenges are rarely solved solely through technique, right? A leader may ask how to improve accountability, navigate succession, drive growth, or build a stronger culture. And those are important questions, but beneath them is often a deeper question. Who must I become in order to lead this organization through this challenge or towards this opportunity? And sometimes the answer is more courage, more humility, greater patience, clarity, discernment, trust. Actions matter, but actions flow from identity. And this is the inner game that Peter talks about. It's this operating system that's running in your background internally. You're either conscious of it or not at any given moment. And sustainable leadership growth occurs when leaders evolve their way of being. They improve that inner narrative that is influencing and driving their decisions, their way of presenting themselves, their approach to the leadership team that they're leading. Yeah.
Do you see that there's a problem when leaders focus only on actions and not identity?
Mhm. Are you asking me?
Yeah,
Yes.
Jane. Scott, yeah, yeah, yeah.
100%, right? It's one thing to have the plan, and it's actually having the plan and knowing how to implement the plan is what got them probably to where they are today. And it very rarely will take their organization to that next level of high performance where they need to be tomorrow. Um,
Peter, I wanted to ask you, what separates leaders who continue growing from those who plateau?
There are two types of challenges leaders are faced with every single day: technical challenges and adaptive challenges. Technical challenges are the bigger, better, faster, cheaper thing, outer game skill and knowledge.
Hmm.
Most leaders recognize I got to pay attention to that. I have to learn AI, for example.
Oh, yeah,
That's a
yeah.
technical challenge. The more challenging of the challenges is adaptive challenges. Adaptive challenges are the requirement to solve for a problem where no solutions appear to exist. And now suddenly what worked last year won't work today. And I have to adapt the way I think and see the very problem itself. That is an ongoing process. You have to be willing to let go of what you know. And if you stay stable, the world will pass you by.
Isn't that in a meaningful way a personality issue? And what if somebody doesn't have that built in? Can you know, find that? Can you help somebody to find that?
Uh, Leadership is developed. It's not trained. You don't go to a seminar and walk out ready to go.
Yeah.
What I find is leaders join my groups and Jane Scott's group because they think it's all about technical challenges, and of course we want to help them with that. And then they come to realize that I'm still frustrated, I'm still tired, I'm still burned out. The big problems aren't getting solved, and they come to realize it's the way I think about it.
Hmm.
And so, how I need to be experienced as a leader by my team and by my company determines the impact I can have with those people. And so, I need to recognize that if I'm not paying attention to how I'm experienced, I could actually cancel myself out.
mhm.
Hmm. Are you finding those sort of discussions are actually coming up as a master chair with your members?
The best Vistage chairs recognize that if I'm going to be successful in this business, I have to help my member, as resistant as they
Yeah.
would be,
Right.
enter the realm of personal growth and recognize that that's the strategic imperative. If they want to scale the business, they got to scale themselves and their leadership team. And that's an inner game journey more than an outer game journey.
Yeah, what's always amazed me about Vistage is how these CEOs come in there and they do make themselves vulnerable and they do open up, which is when the real change happens, is what I've heard all of you say. And Jane, Scott, I'm going to ask you this, is what signals tell you a leader is still developing?
That's a great question. And it's certainly based on what I've seen in my peer forums, three come to mind. Curiosity is one of the biggest indicators. Developing leaders remain teachable. They ask better questions. They seek perspectives different from their own. They're willing to be challenged. I always like to ask the question, is that really true? You catch yourself in your own assumption and you say, yeah, but is that really true? And they're the ones who are asking that question. The
Yeah.
second signal is self-awareness. Mature leaders increasingly understand both their strengths and the unintended consequences of those strengths. And probably most importantly, or potentially most importantly, they continue to grow after success. Success often convinces people that they've arrived. I did the acquisition. I know how to do it. I
Oh,
did
yeah.
the right. I entered a new market. I know how to do it. Growth requires the humility to recognize that there is always another horizon.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, this one fascinates me. Question for both of you, and we'll start with you, Peter. Is leadership development ever finished? And the follow-on is what keeps accomplished leaders growing after they have already achieved success? Is there a roadmap there?
Uh, well, I'm going to respond with there's a certain humility required,
Mhm.
where you recognize that you don't know it all and you don't need to know it all. The idea is growth, and that I am on a journey of continual growth. And if I stay on this journey, good things happen. It's just an act of faith and courage, by the way.
Well, I want to ask you a follow-on to that because as an outsider, looking in, I would think that you have a bunch of CEOs in a room and they're type A personalities to an extent, where which may be at the exclusion of a bit of humility. So, is that a fair statement? Am I off about that? I mean, do they come in with humility?
Jane Scott?
It depends, right? It's like my catchphrase. I need a t-shirt that says it depends. Um, in some areas, they recognize that something isn't going right, and whether or not it may take some time for them to express that not everything is perfect. It actually is one of the filters that I use in terms of who to bring into the peer forum. I don't want to spend a lot of time convincing my members of my group, that leadership development continues until you're dust. That's what I usually say. Right? Those that get that are the ones that probably are better suited for my kind of peer forums.
Hmm.
It's those that struggle with it and openly struggle with that need for control, and that control that's often disguised as responsibility, right? Those are the ones where, they're right on the precipice of understanding it is a journey. You need to be on this journey. And there is just such there's a quiet confidence, there's a relief, there is a different level when you can make that transformation and you need to work for that transformation. Those are the ones that are best suited for my peer forums. And so I do see the struggle. I see the struggle in myself, to be honest. We all get flipped back into our reactive of, controlling, protecting, or
Yep.
complying.
Yep.
And it's those that recognize I need to get out of this faster, right?
Hmm.
Those are the ones that are completely unaware or unconvinced are at a different stage that they're not yet ready for the kind of conversations I have in my peer forums.
Yep. Great insight. Okay, Peter, travel light. This is going to resonate with you, of course, because one of the most powerful ideas in your book is traveling light. What are leaders carrying that weighs them down?
There's the obvious, the customer they need to get rid of that's not profitable, the employee that isn't working out, the product line that's aged out. That's the obvious stuff.
Hmm.
And you want to shed that so you don't carry that forward. What's not so immediately obvious, and what I have found to be true with nearly every CEO I've ever worked with, is this notion of an impoverished definition of a value or a concept.
Mm.
We come into our adult life, there's Webster's dictionary version of authority, power, responsibility, loyalty. And then there's Peter Schwartz's definition of it. And that's been formed by my experience around that concept in interaction with others. And all of my leaders I've ever worked with will bring into the relationship with me an impoverished definition of one of these key concepts, and it holds them back. That's weight in the backpack.
Interesting. Interesting.
So
Yep.
my work, and this is why peer groups do it so well, is if loyalty is, you have loyalty or loyalty has you, the concept. So if loyalty has you, that's going to hold you back, where you need to be more expansive in the way that you embrace loyalty as a concept or a value.
Yeah, and it seems as you talk about that, you're really touching on both, obviously the business side of things, but it gets into the personal side as well, right?
Well, there's a saying that we learn at Vistage, business people join Vistage, human beings show up. This is a very human conversation.
Yeah, yeah,
Which is
absolutely.
why peer groups, really high performing peer groups, get to these kinds of conversations better than just one-to-one coaching.
Yeah, yeah. Jane Scott, related, when executives get stuck, what are they most commonly struggling to let go of?
Yeah, I mentioned this. Control.
Control.
Particularly control that disguises itself as responsibility. Most successful leaders reach their positions because they were decisive and capable and effective problem solvers. They were doers, they were closers, they were strong
Yeah.
negotiators, right? And the behaviors that help them succeed eventually can become limitations. They struggle to let go of being the expert or the expertise. They struggle to let go of certainty. They struggle to let go of the belief that leadership means having all the answers, right? The irony is that leadership often expands when control begins to loosen, right? When clarity becomes more important than control. And creating conditions for others to lead becomes more important than being the leader.
Interesting. So is that don't micromanage? Is that letting go? Don't be controlling. Don't micromanage. Is same way, same thing.
That's a good example of
Yeah.
control. It can show up in a lot of different ways, right? And it's the parentalization of your organization where all decisions have to come to the CEO, through the CEO, if you're talking about a CEO. So that doesn't necessarily mean micromanage, but it means that they have not effectively distributed ownership of large sections of the business,
Yeah.
not just tasks that have been delegated.
Hmm.
Another example is, I guess to, take a page from parenting, the seagull manager, right? It's sort of like, hey, I need you to do this. You guys aren't doing this well. Let me just hop in here, stand back. Let me fix this. Okay, now I'm going to turn the keys back over to you, right? That's one of the most demoralizing approaches to the team, and it teaches the team to, I think there was a funny episode of Everyone Loves Raymond where the husbands were intentionally being incompetent about a task, so they never got asked to do the task again. Right? It's sort of like
Right.
it leads your people to say, well, maybe I don't have to do that. Maybe if I wait long enough, this will just clear up on its own. There's a lot of different ways that a leader can exhibit control, obviously and unobviously, I think, to the team, but the impact is the same. You have taken away ownership of a responsibility and you have limited the growth and development of your own team.
Love it. Binge that show, by the way. Love that show.
It's a great
Still,
show.
still watching. Yeah.
Yeah.
Peter, how does ego disguise itself in accomplished leaders?
Well, let's frame it in the way that I've learned to talk about this. And I talk about ego as a success strategy. Every adult, all three of us, came into our adult lives having formulated a success strategy that goes this way. In order to be safe, secure, and worthwhile in this world, I need to be this type of person as seen in your eyes.
Hmm.
What do I mean by that? And there are three basic types. Uh, I may decide that in order to be safe, secure, and worthwhile in this world, I need to be likable,
Mm,
as seen in the eyes of others. So I go about crafting a strategy to make that true for me.
mm,
The other one is in order to be safe, secure, and worthwhile in this world, I need to be seen as competent, in the eyes of others. So I craft a strategy to be competent. In order to be safe, secure, and worthwhile in this world, I need to be seen as high accomplishing in the eyes of others.
Hmm.
Now, there's nothing wrong with these strategies. It's what gets us promoted. It's what gets us to the point where we start the business. But that is the MS-DOS version of leadership effectiveness.
Hmm.
Because at the moment you're now promoted into the role of leadership, you're going to have to give difficult feedback to people about their performance in the role. And if you have a success strategy that says, I need to be popular and likable in your eyes, you'll never deliver the kind of feedback that's needed to move the needle.
Yeah, very interesting. I think that one where you said, I need to be likable is very common.
And it's the most corrosive to leadership effectiveness. The research is really clear on this.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
Why?
Because you'll throw the results underneath the bus every single time in order to be likable.
Uh, yeah, yeah,
And it's really it's hard. These are blind spots, and this is why we call them blind spots. Leaders don't know they're doing it.
hmm
This is why we have a job.
You go down a rabbit hole on this. I think it is fascinating. Can Jane Scott, I'm going to ask you, can success become a leadership liability?
Absolutely.
In
Yeah,
what ways?
absolutely.
In what ways? Yeah.
Well, when it when it becomes more important than staying curious and continuing to develop. Success when it becomes attached to your identity. And you see this a lot with, Enneagram type threes, those that are, I used to call it being addicted to gold stars, right? We learned it in kindergarten.
Yeah.
It's like all of a sudden you become the person that always delivers, that always does it perfectly, that always has the right answers, that can think it through, that can, right? All of those kind of success monikers. And then it almost becomes reinforcing in a system, right? A leadership system of, hey, this is our go-to person. They will always get us out of a jam, or they will always be able to deliver. All right, that right there. Or they're the ones that know the most. I actually have experienced within my peer forum the person who is more expert or more experienced in a certain aspect. They get elevated a little bit as the person that knows. And right there and then there, the group has prevented them from continuing to learn because they're expecting them to have the answers, right?
I've seen it play out in companies where
Yeah.
success, uh, there's a point, and I've seen this experience by many Vistage members, where what got them successful is they played to win.
Yeah.
And suddenly, to keep that success in place, they start playing not to lose.
Hmm.
And that is a very dangerous shift.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you see that in sports all the time. I was watching the NBA play. I'm a huge basketball guy, and I mean, just the finals we just had, Spurs were collapsing because they were playing not to lose with those big leads they got.
Yeah. Well, and this goes to a lot of Peter's work as well in terms of where have you attached your identity? If your identity gets attached to the outcomes and to the successes, it limits how much risk you are going to take over time. It just does, right? You start taking the easier shots, right?
Yeah,
But not the winning shots, you know?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Peter, leadership literature often focuses on individual leaders. Do you think the future of leadership is becoming more collective?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, now we're talking about leadership at scale. It's no longer about the CEO. It's about developing the level below you. That's the L2s. The CEO is leadership level one, the C-suite is leadership level two, and you need to go one level below that if you're large enough. That's the leadership at level three.
Mm,
That's developing leadership at scale. It's developing the collective consciousness of the entire leadership team to take on the big challenges. It's not just the CEO that has to be developing, the whole team needs to be developing at a pace that matches or exceeds the complexity of the environment, or all kinds of friction will be introduced to the scene.
yeah, that's interesting too, because we get involved through my businesses on exit planning, growth, and exit, and that comes into the equation all the time, where you've got to have your management team dialed in in a collective way, because if they're going to be running the company for obvious reasons, they got to be dialed in. Otherwise, company's not going to move forward. So we see it all the time there.
Every single member of mine that got sold to private equity, that flipped to private equity, they were surprised at the level of due diligence private equity played on the management team.
Oh, really? Interesting. You mean just understanding who the management team is and what their roles are? Like how
And
deep?
are they capable of taking this company into the future in the way that we want to see it go?
Wow. Yeah. Fascinating. Uh, Jane Scott, you spend much of your time helping leadership teams think collectively. What do organizations misunderstand most about this idea of collective leadership?
Yeah, well, thank you for mentioning that. My focus is becoming more and more around collective leadership or leadership operating as a shared organizational capability rather than a set of disconnected, even if they're synchronized roles, right? And we talked about that a lot in the last session with Mark Pansiera. Many organizations believe collective leadership means everyone gets a vote. It doesn't. Collective leadership means leadership becomes a shared organizational capability, not the responsibility of a few individuals. So the goal is not
Hmm.
consensus, it's coherence. When leadership teams develop shared clarity around purpose, priorities, decision making, accountability, then organizations move faster and perform better. Collective leadership isn't the absence of leadership. It really is distributed by design and integrated in practice. And when the better PE firms are coming in to see whether or not a leadership collective can take the company forward, they're not just looking at the leaders individually. They're looking at what kind of leadership systems have they put in place, and can those leadership systems scale adaptively for the
Hmm.
organization?
Peter, why do leaders need community to grow?
Uh, you can't do this by yourself.
Mhm.
You need the leaders that I work with recognize they need feedback and they're feedback seeking. They understand that I've got to be getting feedback in order to know what I need to know and the adjustments I need to make. Community, the way that I experience it, and Jane Scott experiences, is in the form of peer groups. That
Mhm.
becomes a kind of a crucible where a member can, inside this place of safety and confidence, share what needs to be shared so that they can grow and get feedback about what's next on their journey. That done well is the catalyst for growth.
Mhm.
Community
And,
is vital if you want to really get yourself to the next level.
and I've heard both of you talk, and Vistage talk a lot about the idea that community obviously is important at the company, but then also as the CEOs come into your peer groups, having an environment where they can speak with, their peers without management helps really solidify the community and what's going on there.
Mhm.
Fair way to say it.
Yep.
Jane Scott, I want to ask you this. As a Vistage Chair, what have you learned about how executives develop differently in peer communities than they do alone?
Well, growth accelerates in community, right? Most leaders receive feedback about their performance, but far fewer receive feedback about their leadership and how they're experienced as a leader, right? And how you're experienced as a leader determines your effectiveness as a leader, as one of my
Yep.
favorite authors says, footnoting Peter on that. I also believe that how your leadership collective is experienced as a collective determines the effectiveness of their leadership. But peer groups really create an environment where leaders can think out loud, test their assumptions, reveal their blind spots, or have them revealed to them, and learn from people facing similar challenges, right? And I've also said that the quality of a leadership collective is really reflected in the quality of the conversations surrounding its leaders, right? So when leaders learn together, they will grow faster than they do in isolation.
Which gets into this question I'm going to follow on with you, Jane Scott, is what is the difference between building a successful organization and building a leadership legacy?
Hmm. Oh, that's such a great question. Um, A successful organization is going to be the sustainable ecosystem, the sustainable system that continues to grow, learn, adapt, change, succeed as a collective. The legacy is oftentimes well deserved, although for the humble CEO, not sought after. The legacy is the fact that they put that in motion. I think one of the most challenging conversations I have with my CEOs that truly have taken that organization up to that level is, man, not, they didn't do it for the gratitude, but every once in a while they'd like to be recognized and thanked for the system that they created that does
Yeah.
not require them to continue on. That
Yeah.
truly is a legacy, but more importantly for them, it's the system that is sustainable. And 10 years from when they leave, when they retire or sell, 10 years later, the company may not look like what they put in place, right? It truly has grown and taken on its life of its own. I don't know, did I answer your question?
Yeah, I think it's great. Peter, do you have insight on that question? The difference between building a successful organization and a leadership legacy?
Well, the organization, I think, that's the point, is we're here to build something that goes out into the future. That's the desired future state. The legacy would be the lives you've impacted along the way, in such a positive way through the leadership, through the organizational growth and I've seen my own members, some of them, the most satisfying part of the whole journey were the families they helped build through the incomes they generated. That kind of legacy.
Yeah.
Positive impact on the community,
Mhm.
that kind of legacy.
Well, looking back on your own journey, Peter, who did you need to become?
More of Peter.
What does that mean? More of Peter.
Well, what I've recognized is there's a great formula out there. Performance equals potential minus interference.
Mhm.
Performance equals potential minus interference.
Love that. Yeah. Yeah.
So in my case, it was beginning to get really clear about whatever else is interfering that I need to let go of, so that what you encounter in an interaction with me is just Peter. No bullshit, just Peter.
Yeah. I mean, is self-reflection, self-awareness, have you always had that as an individual, or did you have to develop that a bit?
Well, I think I had some of it, but
Yeah.
it is a superpower is to develop self-awareness and more important than that, non-judgmental self-awareness.
Yeah.
The ability to watch yourself, be yourself in a context without judgment and to recognize that, oops, maybe I need a course correct here.
Yeah. No, that's great because so many people are not self-aware today. I mean, you see it everywhere. It's just insane. You just go out of your house and little things. So it's a big deal. Course correct. I like that. And Jane Scott, after working with so many executive leaders, who do leaders most need to become today?
Well, I think Peter just said it, right? They need to become themselves, but they need to become that better version of themselves, the one that's self-aware, the one that's less ego connected, that is curious and creative and really craft a sense of belonging, right, within their
Yeah.
organizations, right? There's a sense of, there's, I guess, HR for a long time has really developed this concept around cultural fit. Do they fit the culture? Right. And I think that might be a disservice to a lot of organizations because there's an expectation that fit is a certain way or certain look or certain approach or certain way. Actually, you want to create that culture of belonging that actually provides space for people to be themselves, but the better version, the developing version, the growing version of
Yeah.
themselves.
Yeah.
Can I,
Well, yeah.
can I
Yeah,
add a
please.
metaphor, Jane
Yeah.
Scott?
Mhm. Please.
If we imagine light as leadership as a presence of light,
Mhm.
and this would be a continual answer of your question about me. At one time, the light that I brought to the situation was more in the form of a flashlight. I could direct the light in a direction that I wanted to direct the light to, and then move from there. And that had usefulness to it. But what I evolved into is bringing light in the form of a lantern. And
Mhm.
now the lantern lights the room. And when my presence lights the room, now everybody can see the information that needs to be seen, and everybody can weigh in the way that they need to lay in.
Mhm.
That's what leaders need to become. They need to become the light that illuminates.
Mhm.
Wonderful analogy. I want to ask a final thought here, Peter. Start with you. What is one thing leaders need to let go of in order to serve something larger than themselves?
I think they need to get it right. Just go for growth.
Mhm.
Just go for the best shot that you can, and don't take it all so damn seriously.
Easier said than done. Are you able to achieve that with the folks you're working with? Do you bring that into the equation?
It's a journey.
Boom. Well said. Well said. Jane Scott, what do you say about that?
Yeah. So I love this question because the pure forms that I curate are executives who are implementing innovation-led strategies and intentionally living lives of greater significance, right? I think the one thing that a leader needs to let go of in order to serve something larger than themselves is the belief that leadership is about them. Leadership begins with self-development, but it matures into service. And the moment leaders can shift from proving themselves to serving something larger than themselves, their teams, their organizations, their communities, then leadership becomes transformational. And that shift is the most important journey of them all, in my estimation.
I love it. Well, I want to thank you both for being here. I mean, great discussion. We could go on forever. I'm fascinated by all of this. And I want to say for anybody that's seeing this, because we are putting this out there, simulcasting this everywhere on LinkedIn, YouTube, that encourage you to get connected to both of these folks. Peter Schwartz is in the DC area, Jane Scott, McLean, Virginia, broader area over there, and they're doing great things. I want to thank you both for being here. I know we're all going to talk again. Appreciate it.
Well,
Thank you,
thanks, Paul.
Paul.
And
Good
I
to
just
see
want to
you.
put in one
Yeah,
last plug because I hope that in the information you'll also put a link to Peter's book, The Leadership Journeyman.
absolutely.
It's a must read.
Oh, thank you so much.
Love it. Love it.
Thank
Okay,
you.
we'll talk soon, both of you. Thank you.